Yeah, we're fortunate enough to have Bobby Mercier joining us to be our speaker tonight. Bobby is the cultural advisor for the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. And so, yeah, we'll learn a little bit about the Grand Ronde canoe journey and maybe some historical connections of the Kalapuyan people to the Willamette River watershed. Maybe some other things that Bobby has to add to that too. So I'll just keep the introduction short, but Bobby, yeah, it's yours to take it away from here. So thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Oh no, my pleasure, guys. Um, yeah, like you said, I'm the cultural advisor for Confederated Tribes of Grand Round and skipper for our canoes. And we have several canoes here. They're all of our Chinookan canoes, which you would find from about the Willamette Falls to the Dalles, and then all the way up through Vancouver Island and down far south as Coos Bay. So the style of canoe that we use, we also use a river canoe, which would be in the Albany area, our shovel nose canoes, and we actually carve those here still and use them out on the river. We have a couple in our possession that are over a couple hundred years old, and so we use those as models to still carve those canoes. But um, did hopefully you guys got a chance to look at some of the video links I sent you guys. Um, so we every year there's a canoe journey that happens up in the Puget Sound, or actually all the way up into Vancouver Island and to the far north tip of Vancouver Island. And every year we um, take a good group of people from Grand Round and go and paddle. And so what we usually do is we'll start at the closest spot that we can to home and then paddle from there. So we've paddled down the Willamette River, down the Columbia, and then up the ocean to we've gone to Quinault and Nia Bay and all the way back around to the interior, and putting thousands of miles on our canoes. We have our biggest canoe that we use mainly on our big water is 32 feet long, and so uh, that holds like 13 people, and we could throw some gear in there and stuff. But we usually have a support boat that goes along with us, and so we can switch out pullers and get snacks and have lunch and pull up on a beach somewhere and cook some food. But that's usually that usually consumes our summers, and so we've really gotten a lot of our youth into that and being in the canoe. And we today we say it's canoe culture because of the revitalization of all the songs and the dances and the teachings that go along with it. Um, a long time ago, it wasn't so much called a canoe culture, just everyday life. But being in those canoes for us is a way that thinking of paddling all the places that our ancestors have paddled. You know, it's we consider the big rivers our highways. And it's kind of like we consider them like I-5, for us. And uh, when we talk about even Albany and the Upper Willamette, big things for us as Kalapuya people um, was our trades. And so thinking of that area, big on Camas, that's our Camas hub over there. And so we go over there and dig and we would trade the Camas all the way up into towards the Dalles and down towards the mouth of the river for different objects, different meats, furs and things like that. So um, that Camas was a big thing for us. And we in our language, we didn't have buffalo around here, but because of our trade routes up and down the Willamette and into the Columbia, we have the name for buffalo in our language, and it's because of our trades up to the Dalles, and then from the Dalles, those people coming down from up north to trade there. And so, uh, yeah, that was a short, quick version there. But we paddle today. We take kids out. We have a small lake out over here where we we have our classes actually from the local high school. We bring kids out to paddle. We also do a bunch of stuff with our canoes at the falls of taking kids up there. And there's a handful of us that have been there's a handful of us that have done our whitewater rescue training. So we have a handful of guys that are all certified. So when we take our kids places, that everybody knows a little something of what's going on, so we could be safe. But yeah, anybody got any questions?
Yeah, you mentioned some videos. Is that possible to see those videos tonight?
I don't have those queued up on here. I sent a handful of links to those. I don't know if they got sent out to you guys.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, I can surely share them again. I don't have them I don't have them queued up on my iPad.
Yeah, I only sent them out to the board members. I wasn't sure if I didn't know they were supposed to go out to the broader thing as like a pre-talk context.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But I do remember from one of those videos you had I have them so I can look for them and send them out while we're going here. But
yeah,
one of those videos you were building one of the dugout canoes, and I'm wondering if you could just talk about that process a bit, because that was really interesting.
Yeah, so that canoe we were doing it's a shovel nose canoe, and that would have been in the Albany area. That is one of like our Kalapuyan style canoes, and we also refer to it as a freshwater canoe. That canoe, so there was a canoe that was a little over 200 years old, and it was at the Willamette Mission museum there, and they've had it for quite a while. They found it at the mouth of the Sandy River, and we had been negotiating with that museum for a while to try and get that canoe back, bring it home. And what we decided to do was we made an agreement with them for us to put on a live exhibit there. And so we did a big exhibit on all of our canoes, our canoe journey, and our connection to the Willamette watershed all the way up, and did a big history presentation there. And we said, you know what, let's carve a canoe. Let's do a live demonstration of carving a canoe. And so out in front of their museum, we carved a shovel nose canoe in a replica of the one that they had. And part of that agreement was for us to do that when we were done, that canoe would come home with us. And so we did that live exhibit there of carving a traditional shovel nose canoe, and that actually won a national award for that exhibit. And we have that canoe in our museum here in Grand Round now, and we do have that old canoe in our vault. And so it's nice to be able to bring that home. So
How long does it take to carve one of those canoes?
so the one that we carved was 19 feet long, and there was probably 4 of us working on it. It took us about 3 months, I think.
What's the material you're using? Which kind of wood? What do you prefer? Cedar?
Yeah, Western red cedar. Yeah.
And where's the one? Is it accessible to the public, sort of? The one that's in the Mid-Willamette Valley and the area you talked about?
Yes, if you come to our museum here in Grand Round, it's called Chichalu Museum, and you can see it on display. And I think you can actually go to our website also and do a virtual tour. And so you can do that. Our museum's closed right now for another week or so. We've had a handful of sickness breakout around here, so we just closed for just safety, whatever, for people. But here in about 2 weeks, we'll be open again to the public, and it's free to just come check out. In our museum is actually our other big canoes, our ocean-going canoes. So we have our 32-foot canoe in there. We have a 24-foot one, a 20-foot one, and then that 19-foot dugout canoe in our museum.
How you doing? Hey. So you want that? I wouldn't do that. You wouldn't? Sure.
Could everyone check their mute button, please? Make sure you're on mute so we can't hear you eating dinner.
Or at least share.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Bobby,
Yeah.
can we paddle with your canoes on say the Willamette? Is there a way we can do a paddle together?
Yeah, my brother actually does that. He's got waivers and everything designed for people to do group paddles. I will get you guys his information. He's got a few different canoes, and he does a bunch of that. My brother is actually that's all he does is construct our canoes now. He builds our canoes for us. That's his job.
I got another question, Bobby.
Yeah.
There was some in one of the videos. There was some connection with like some of the, I think it was the Maori people of New Zealand, and
Yeah.
I'm curious, like what is that connection? Like, what is the significance behind that connection?
Yeah. So back in 2009, there was also a big exhibit that happened at the Hallie Ford Museum there in Salem, and one of the things was it was called the Eternal Thread, and it was bringing weavers together from native communities, and the Maoris being big weavers, and all of our communities being weavers. We had to put on a huge exhibit there, and the exhibit was to display the different things that we had woven and also talk about our cultures. And so we did all 9 tribes of Oregon there, and then we also brought in some guests from New Zealand. And in 2009, we had invited them because their canoes are so heavy, it would cost a lot of money for them to send one of them over here, and also enough people to man it. And so we made the offer to them to just send some delegates over to come and paddle with us. And so since 2009, we have had it's their WACA Federation, their canoe federation. They pick out 2 people from different communities and send them over here to paddle with us. And usually those people are the heads of like their families, the skippers of their canoes, or people that are really big into their culture. We've also had some of their Maori television people come over and paddle with us. It's just like a big cultural exchange that we do with them. And then in return, like there's a handful of us that have gone over there and paddled with them also, and spent time doing cultural exchange over there as well. So we still do it today. I mean, obviously not the last couple of years, but as soon as this all frees up again and we're able to do our canoe journeys, they'll be sending people back over again. But yeah, it's been a great exchange for us.
Nick and Horst, you both have sharing privileges. Would you want to bring up one of the videos and play it for everybody? Do you see the titles over there in the chat box?
Yeah, I decided not to do that because I'm trying to keep the recording as clean as possible. And if I'm dealing with 2 videos at the same time, it may mess with my bandwidth. So someone else, please. Brian is a backup in recording, so someone else as a
I can
co-host.
share one.
Yeah, would be great.
Bobby, is there a video that you recommend that we open up? I have all three open.
Um,
Nick may be co-host and able to actually share the screen and let Bobby look at it and let him select what he prefers to be played. What do you think?
Bobby is
yeah,
co-host.
I can't remember what the name of that
Yeah.
one video was.
can do
I
that.
mean, there's the dig deep one that talks about the canoe journey.
Here, so you should see my screen.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's this one, that one,
Well,
and then
yeah, that's the canoe carving one there.
this one here.
Yeah, that's us carving that canoe.
Let's try that. Is the sound coming through okay?
Yeah, looks like it froze. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, so this is in front of the Willamette Mission museum there, and we're just carving away with chisels and
They are
knives.
carving a log and turning it into a river canoe. This is a log that we got donated from the Willamette National Forest, and it's been sitting at the reservation in a pile of other large old growth logs, and we've turned many of them into the planking for our plank house that we have out there now. But there were a few leftover logs, and one of them was split in half, and both halves of that will be turned into canoes. This is one of the halves right here, which is being turned into a river canoe, which is an authentic representation of a Kalapuyan style river canoe from the Willamette Valley.
These are knives that we make ourselves. We actually buy just pieces of steel, and we actually forge and file them down and sharpen them all ourselves. A long time ago, what we'd use is we'd use jade blades, jade and stone, different types of stone. Just the steel itself, being able to forge it and make it to the angles that we need for doing certain cuts is actually a big plus. It's a big help for us. You can't do it here. This is where that bad spot is. The grain is changing here. It was actually a big trade when steel started coming around from up north. This was a big thing that we traded for.
People were experts at using the canoes, and they would be easily used in rivers and even larger streams throughout the valley, where people use these streams for like highways. So they would travel through the area in similar to a highway like we have I-5 nowadays. Generally, the public doesn't know much about the Confederated tribes of Grand Ronde or the Kalapuyan people. And so this is one way we can show the public about that we're more than just a casino in the Coast Range. The tribe was terminated in 1954, and we were restored in 1983 as a tribe, a federally recognized tribe. So since that time, we've been restoring our governance, our ability to reach into our ceded lands and manage our resources there, and many of our traditions that were lost in the termination period. So the canoe has been sort of a focal point of that, because it's something physical that people can do, get involved, and the whole community can be involved with. We can be involved with other tribes in the same kind of tradition that was pretty common throughout the Northwest.
This was a very important trading network for them to be able to bring economic resources into the area that they were short supply of here, and also to trade excess that they had going out. Something that is exhibits I love is to be able to present a different image of what that prehistory was like. It was a very vibrant trade, going far beyond what the boundaries of we would think of the Oregon country, the American Northwest, and shows that there was a lot more interconnection with other Native groups than we had previously believed. The canoe journey, it started in the late 80s, and that's where various Native communities get together. And in a long journey together, they go from location to location, interact with other tribal groups. It's becoming a wonderful and very modern and recent phenomenon of this pan-tribal gathering amongst the Northwest Native groups. And we have some images of that in this section, but also that canoe journey has gone international, and we have some discussion in the exhibit of how the Grand Ronde peoples are cooperating with other peoples of other nations, including New Zealand Maori. So this is becoming an international phenomenon.
Yeah, this whole thing all the way across there. The whole section right
This feels like forever ago. Yeah, so you can see that canoe on display in our museum here in Grand Ronde.
Should I?
I got a question.
Yeah.
Usually when a log dries, it cracks and stuff. How do you keep your canoes supple enough so they don't just get cracked?
Yeah, well, I mean, when we're carving it and we start seeing those cracks up here, we use these little, they're bow tie splints, and so we'll create like a bow tie, and we'll carve out a section in where that crack is, and we'll put those little bow ties in. And as you've seen on that log, I don't know if you could see too good on it. There was some heart rot in it, and so we had to cut off one end and scribe a whole new piece on there. And but yeah, a nice choice log would have been great, but this was just one of the logs that we had laying around. We built a longhouse here and had a bunch of logs donated to us from the Willamette Forest Service out of Sweet Home, and so we had a handful of logs that were left over from building our big longhouse, and that was one of them. So we split it in half and just started hollowing it out just to replicate that other one. So yeah.
Bobby, I've learned recently that in the Michigan area, there were deposits of natural copper. Did that natural copper ever make its way to this area for tools and cooking utensils?
It did. It made it this way. It wasn't in big quantity though. What we did was a lot of the copper that we had out here, we turned into beads. So we smashed it out into a big flat piece, and then we rolled it and we made copper beads with them. And so that's a lot of the things that we find, and a lot of things that we have in our history was about trading that, excuse me, that copper coming out from back east. So a lot of the blades that we did have for our jade blades for carving would come from British Columbia. So those would be traded up and down the coast.
Can we see one of the other videos?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pull them up.
That's a
The Intertribal Canoe Journey, hosted by a different Pacific Northwest tribal community each year, began in 1989 with the goal of reviving tradition and culture. The paddle to Seattle back then had only 4 canoes participating. but has since expanded to include as many as 100 in recent years. This annual event, a celebration of Native American tribes and Canadian First Nations, travels the same water highways of their ancestors. The Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde began participating in 2005 with the Paddle to Lower Elwha on Washington State's Olympic Peninsula. Traveling in a 33-foot traditional ocean canoe, there were 16 people from the Grand Ronde community who were involved. Today, more than 90 tribal and community members participate, from paddling the canoes to helping in the support group. The journey provides participants with a sense of identity for themselves, actively helping them see and experience the revitalization of their culture. Canoe Journey is a drug and alcohol-free event. It is also an integral part of the Grand Ronde Tribe's drug and alcohol prevention program for youth. In fact, the tribe focuses on involving foster children as well as youth at risk of delinquency or substance abuse and their families. Overall, the Canoe Journey helps the tribe mentor its youth, teaching them to become responsible and active members of the tribal community, the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde.
Yeah, it's funny in in most all these videos, the water's just really nice, slack water. When we have been in some of the roughest water you could imagine. We've also got a sail on this canoe, so when it gets really, you can see the sail there. That when we get a nice wind at our back, we just put the sail up and everybody gets to take a break for a while. So we usually do this for, I don't know, we'll usually paddle for 20 to, I think the farthest we did was like 52 miles in one day. So we usually do this for quite a bit, paddling from one tribe to the next. And each tribe hosts you when you get there. So they got a big meal, and we have a traveling ground crew, and they'll go and get our tents and everything set up, and figure out where meals are at for us. Sometimes we have to leave at 3-4 o'clock in the morning and follow the tide. And sometimes water all day. Yeah.
Some questions in the chat for him.
And a couple of them pop up. They disappear really quick.
So, Bobby, is there any work with heating and steam to shape the materials of that canoe?
Yeah. So these canoes right here are what we call a hybrid canoe. So these are not carved out of one log. These are actually, there's a canoe in the Oregon Historical Society that is close to 300 years old now. It's called the Scarborough Canoe, and you can still see that canoe today. And what we did was we took a friend of ours who's a naval engineer, and we went up there and we took measurements off of that canoe, and we took templates off that canoe for about 2 weeks. And then we came back and we stuck all those numbers in a CAD program. And then so now we can stretch and shrink those numbers and still have the same canoe. These canoes right here are marine grade mahogany plywood. There is some steaming and bending that does go to them, to the front of it and the rear of it. You kind of have to steam it to get the swell in the back. And it all has a real important function of how you move through the water. And so these are the canoes that we build a lot today. The stern and prow are still carved out of cedar, but the hull of it is a plywood base, and they still weigh just about really close to the actual weight of a dugout canoe. This one here roughly weighs about 835. So, and that's a 32-foot canoe. This is us getting ready. So every night we always have protocol. So the hosting tribe, at night after you've been on the canoe all day, everybody gets a chance to come together and share songs and dances, and you make your way from tribe to tribe. And when you get to the final hosting tribe, they host like a 5-day event. And so it starts with the canoes that came from the farthest away. They get to go up first, and then it moves down the line, and everybody gets to share some of their songs and dances. And when it comes to the last day, the host tribe, they have all of their singers and dancers come out, and they have a huge giveaway. It's a big potlatch for them. So they give a bunch of gifts to everybody that came, and it's a real good time.
Could you expand on those kind of different types of paddles that I saw? There are one with two pointy ends and that U-shaped in the middle, and then the pointy ones as I have seen them before. So
yeah. So the leaf style paddle, the ones that come out to the point, those are what you would see up and down the Willamette, and you would see those in the Columbia also. But that hook shaped paddle, that is a real distinctive paddle, and that's called a Chinookan Paddle. So that would be from the Columbia River. Anybody that's paddled along the shores of the Columbia, there's tons and tons of cottonwoods, and those root wads come out and grow over the banks of the river there. And so those hooks, when you're paddling and you come up on a bank, you're able to reach out with those hooks and grab onto those root wads to help stop yourself. But also we use them. There's a little tubular plant that looks like a potato that grows in some of the marshy areas, and it's called a wapato, and it looks just almost like a Russian gold potato. And you can use it to feel down in there, and when you feel them, you can pop them up out of the ground, kind of like a little shovel. And so we use those. It's a multi-tool, but it's also a real distinctive paddle for us on the Columbia River. So if you look up Chinookan Paddle, that's pretty much what you'll see every time. And those are traditionally all of our paddles, they're carved out of Oregon ash. So
Oregon ash I find quite brittle. You get success with that?
yeah, we've got paddles still today that we carved probably 15 years ago. Yeah, we just take them and rub some grease on them. They still good. And you've seen us paddling with them. I mean, they get a nice flex to them. If you keep them oiled up real good, they don't get waterlogged. Yeah.
Do we
You'll
have
see some. What's that?
Do we have time for the last video?
The big battle takes place usually the last weekend, like last weeks of July through the first weekend of August.
I'd love to
If you
see
look
that.
up, if you look up tribal journeys on YouTube, you could be there for days watching videos. If you look up Grand Round canoe journey, there's so many videos on YouTube.
This one here, this was that third one you sent me.
I don't even remember what I sent you there. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Tēnā koutou, nō rāwi watahu, Huri no Ngāti Pro Te Aotearoa me ngā ruahine. Well, I was fortunate enough to be selected by Toi Māori Aotearoa, myself and Tupara, to represent Aotearoa to head over to Canada, this time on the tribal canoe journeys. How are you feeling?
Yeah, feeling excited, nervous. Also like to thank Toi Māori for giving us this opportunity to go around and share this experience with our whānau over in with the Grand Ronde.
Toi Māori Aotearoa have held a strong relationship with the Grand Ronde tribe in Oregon, and they've sent over a couple of participants every year. So it's been going on for more than 10 years now. The value of the tribal canoe journeys is to reconnect. It's just another way to say, hey man, this is our people, this is what we do, this is how we roll, get on board. They are special people, really humble. It's just a chance for the First Nations people over there to pump up their culture. Tribal Canoe Journey is an annual event that is hosted by many tribes. They all have a turn every year. Each tribe will depart from their area and paddle to the final destination. For us, we were there paddling for about 12 days. So we covered about 250 kilometers over those 12 days. So Brian's our captain for this waka. And Brian, man, tell us about the meaning of the name behind our canoe. Sonkia.
Our canoe, Sonkia, because that is our what we put on our mythical creature, or the one our creator would shape the land for us. This Sonkia and what this canoe has done for our tribe. When we first received the gift of this canoe, there's no amount of money that you can put on that, and so Sonkia has brought back all of those traditions of our ancestors, and so that's why when we're paddling in it, those paddles are a connection back into the water. Or all those times, once we got Sonkia, things were looking up. So from me and my brother and the rest of the people that you see here, you could definitely tell there's a sense of a glow in us. I mean, that fire didn't go out, but now we're just glowing. The songs that came back, the encouragement of knowing your people and knowing what they did, that kind of that wonder.
So they welcomed us into their space, onto their home, into their canoe. You know, I mean, it's a big task for them to do that. They've got plenty of tribal members that will probably want my seat. So for them to sort of offer 2 seats a year for Māori to sit on their canoe is a whakaaro rangatira, you know, a chiefly thought. So we would paddle for, 30, 40, 50 kilometers every day. We would meet up with other tribes and along the way, learn their waiata, learn some of their traditions, get involved with artwork and just sharing our stories and histories between the First Nations people. Brother's been here doing it for 13 years and no doubt has done some wonders for your people.
Yeah, just brought back that sense of it's okay to be you, giving our kids a sense of connection that we don't have being on the res and getting our kids bused to a town that usually most towns right beside a reservation is the most racist towns. They're the ones who hate us the most, keep us suppressed. And that sense of honor and that pride that we're able to say, it's okay to be, to build that tamano, that strength, that spirit, build your spirit up, knock out something, it's like hitting home runs, stepping up to the plate, when you're singing a song, when you're doing your haka and you put your all into it, you're making your ancestors proud, you're trying to connect to them in a different way. It don't matter how much blood of this or that you have, it's how you live in this land that you're on right now.
I've been impressed by all the young people here, man. They've been owning this journey. And so they should. Because they're the leaders of tomorrow. They call you a nickname, man. Firstly, tell us about your nickname.
I have two nicknames. The youth, some call me Sedona, or the one that Brian called me this morning is Donut.
This is your first journey, man. How was it?
It was absolutely amazing, and I feel fantastic, and I'm really glad that I got to come and enjoy this with everybody. And the water was awesome, and paddling and being out there, everybody else was truly an amazing experience. I'm glad I got to experience that. Yes, I definitely will be more confident in being out there and going out in public, because this was also my first time like dancing out there with the other girls, and I had friends like her, I had Tina, to encourage me to go out there and dance with everybody else. And whenever I was done, it made me feel really good, and I had a really good feeling after that. I'm glad you guys got to share your guys' dances with ours. Like, that was awesome. I loved seeing it, and just it was awesome to see, because I've seen the haka, on like other videos and stuff, but truly to experience it in real life and just see it, it's awesome. And I loved how you put all the other guys in there too, and seeing my uncle out there, I was so happy. I was like, yes, so worth it. It's awesome to see that you guys come over here and you guys share your culture with us, and then we share ours with you, and then you guys share in return, and just seeing the different cultures and how they are is just really awesome.
We ended up in Campbell River. It was a long journey. We all gathered there, waited for the last canoes to arrive before we could actually go onto shore. And in fact, the chief of the local tribe there had to go through each canoe, each waka, to welcome them on. We would reply with a bit of a kōrero as well, to share some thoughts and to say, hey, we come in peace. We want to come and share our food, share our culture with you, similar to what Māori people do when we have a pōhiri onto the marae. It's welcoming. So that was their way of welcoming us into their
represent the tribes, the Grand Ronde. This is our waka. Thank you. Greetings to your mountains, to your rivers, to your oceans, to your people. We are requesting permission to come ashore, to sharing food, sharing thoughts, sharing cultures.
We are the Comox First Nation. We have our hereditary chief here with us to come and welcome you guys onto these shores. We welcome you to come and eat. We want to learn a bit about your culture and where you come from. We want to hear your songs and your story, so we can have a story to tell our grandchildren in the future. Meilai Kashlaki, we're welcome ashore. Ayo.
We learned some of their waiata, some of their songs, and as you know, they've got long houses over there. We would go into a long house, to a whare nui, we call them here in Aotearoa, and just share songs. And also they allowed us some space to perform some Māori waiata and haka as well. It's a good way to connect with other cultures around the world, but also share our stories, because a lot of indigenous nations look to Māori people.
It was hard work, it was a good test on our body and mind, and it was just a chance to get out into the ocean, feel some of our atua Māori out there, isolated away from my whānau, from my hapu and my iwi, and just catching up with complete strangers, really. This journey was a life-changing experience for me. Definitely recommend it for anyone out there to attend this kaupapa. Get on board the Tribal Canoes journey.
Yeah, so you guys got to hear from their side of the story there, of those guys coming and joining us. Man, that I don't get to watch that video enough. That's a lot of memories there.
So I missed.
Go ahead.
Oh, I missed part of the video. I didn't understand the connection between New Zealand and the Confederated tribes.
Oh yeah, okay. So back in 2009, we had done a big museum exhibit together, and I was there with the head of their federation. They have a canoe federation, and people that send delegations all over their country, but then also around the world to do cultural exchange with other people. And I was there at a time when they were talking about wanting to bring people over here, but how expensive it was to send one of their canoes. And so we offered to host them if they would want to send people over to come and paddle with us. And so that started in 2009. And ever since then, they have always sent 2 delegates over to come and paddle with us. And so that's how that started. I know one thing that I didn't talk about, which you've seen a bunch on there, is them actually asking permission to come ashore. And a lot of people usually ask, why do they do that? And in our old times, if you were to just pull up on a beach and jump out of your canoe and run up on a shore, it was disrespectful, and it was also usually because you were going there to fight. And so for us what we usually do is when we paddle up to somebody's shoreline is we will make like a big circle, and we will show them that we're there and we come in peace. And so when you see our paddles up on the sides of our canoes, we're showing them that we come in peace, and that we paddle up and we actually ask one of the people standing on shore if it's okay that we come ashore, and that we're there for good intentions, that we come to share our songs and our dances, to share our culture, and hopes to also hear from them and their culture and partake in their festivities. And so that's just part of our cultural teaching. And even though they know we're not coming there for war anymore, it's still part of our teachings to say that we're coming in peace. And people sometimes say, well, what do you do if nobody's there? Nobody's on the shore. We speak to the ancestors of that place. Even when we paddle on our rivers here, even though this is all of our territory, we know that the villages that were up and down the Willamette, up and down the Columbia, the people of that place, we speak to their ancestors there, and we let them know that we're just pulling over to take a break, that we're not coming there in harm, we're not coming there with bad feelings, and we hope that it's okay. And even the places that we come from, that's all the Willamette River is, like I said, is our ceded territory, but we still recognize our ancestors of that place. And so when we pull up to a shoreline, we recognize our old villages that were next to the waters. We recognize even the villages that we don't come from, that we know about or we may not know about. You know, that we say, you know, that we're not coming there in a bad way. So usually we've done a couple paddles up and down the Willamette with Willamette River Keepers, and so we've done some big paddles with them and all their kayak flotilla, and so that was a lot of fun. But we also did a lot of teaching with them and had some good times. So I hear the things you guys are doing with the kids. That's really good.
Are there any more questions for Bobby?
I think sometime it would be nice if we could join one of those canoe outings on the Willamette.
Yeah, I heard that you guys are going to be in Salem at the waterfront there. I think my brother's bringing his canoe over there to come and paddle at the same time. I think they asked him to come over there and do that.
Is that in Salem or in Eugene?
I think it's the one in Eugene, the World Beat Festival or whatever it's called. Is that what you were talking about earlier?
We were talking about the Willamette River Festival.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to be at the World Beat Festival?
Yeah, I think my brother and a handful of people are going to be over there, and they're going to have a big flotilla thing there. Might be something to look into. You guys could jump in and be a part of.
Do you know what date that's going to be?
I think it's around the same time you were talking. It's like July 26th or 27th, 28th, somewhere around there. If you look up World Beat Festival, it should pop right up and have a bunch of information online.
You said World B as in humble beat? Beat.
Yeah, BEAT.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if you guys, like I said, I'll get information from my brother to you guys' group there. And if you guys ever wanted to do a paddle, you could reach out to him, and he could bring his canoe down. And I think that one holds like 7 or 8 people, but can do a few different trips.
Well, thank you very much. You provided us with a lot of interesting information tonight.
All good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we'll look forward if you send us that information, we can put it out to people. Thanks to Nick putting out the videos tonight, Forrest for recording it all, and Paul for setting us up with some great Zoom.
I just looked up the World Beat Festival. It looks like it's happening near the end of June.
Oh, there you go.
25 and 26. I think that'd be a kick going up there.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me.
You're very welcome.
This was great.
Thank you,
Thank you, Bobby.
All right, guys.